What's up, everyone? I'm Vaelor, bringing you closer to the competitive Unite action. Joined today in an exclusive interview with Wailord. Whaley, great to have you as part of this conversation. Thanks so much for being willing to jump on. Wailord is the support player for IX Gaming. Love getting to have these conversations with players directly. So thanks for being willing to join me today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Course. Place I always love to start with these conversations is just kind of your origin story, your history, what brought you into competitive Unite, what brought you into the game, and sort of paint a picture for us about what brought you to the game itself.
Yeah. So Pokemon Unite is my first MOBA. I have no previous competitive experience in esports. The reason that I started playing this game was because one of my coworkers at my day job, her name is Wu. She is now IX Gaming's team manager. She's very into Pokemon and asked me to play Unite with her when it first launched. So I'm actually, ironically, a day one Unite gamer with like zero MOBA experience. And like, let me tell you, I was so bad at this game when it first started because I just didn't understand the basic concepts. But yeah, like very grateful that she did ask me to do that because you know it's been a real journey.
It's led
As
to
you can
some
probably
really
tell.
led to some really awesome things. You have
Yeah.
obviously a background on the competitive side with a different team than IX last year, competing with version one. So talk me through some of the story around version one and what formalized essentially your step into the competitive scene.
Yeah, so a little bit of a correction on that point. Version one is basically IX gaming, but it's been a series of like slow roster replacements.
Hmm.
I think a lot of people may think that like the roster is very similar to when it originally started, but it actually looks quite different. I am the only original member of it
Oh
remaining
wow.
on the roster at this point. Yeah, so version one, I think, was founded maybe the third season of UCS. My good friend Locke, who no longer plays this game but was very active in the community in grassroots back then, came to me and was like, "Hey, I'm wanting to found a competitive team. I want it to be like a fun place. It doesn't have to be like everyone is so great at the game, but I want it to be like a place that like we can learn and grow together and just like have fun playing the game. And like we're pretty good at it. Like let's try to be good at it together." So we played a lot of grassroots stuff. Our friend Molinaki was starting the Articuno League around then, so we played a lot of that. We were in a few underdunks. The Black CH was it the Indigo League and the Cellar League in the LG server at the time. We played those, and yeah, we're just like kind of slowly, trying to get more experience and get more reps against the top teams in the region. And yeah, so I just sort of stayed on that roster like throughout it. It was a really good environment, I think, for me to play the game, and it was fun. So yeah, that's kind of where that was.
That's excellent. So it obviously some success last year though, specifically going to Worlds. So talk me through that
Yeah,
experience.
yeah. So I Worlds was a great experience. Was It was very. I think we all had a belief within the team leading up to regionals that we could qual for Worlds. But I think from our results from the rest of the season, I think the rest of the scene did not share that belief. We felt that we could do it. We were able to do it. And then I think training for Worlds improved, I think, the whole team as players, just getting constant reps for months in between regionals and Worlds itself, getting to play teams from out of region and everything like that, which had not really been a part of our training regimen prior to that. Really leveled us up, I think, as players and led us to a place where we've been able to find success in the regional league this year.
Absolutely. It has definitely evolved. Talk me through the evolution into IX Gaming this season. Being able to join with an organization, they obviously had some competitive Unite presence back in 2022, and now we're kind of resurfacing with this new roster.
Yeah. So I believe that with the new regional league system, they were looking for orgs, and obviously David, who founded IX Gaming, has was a mainstay and like a big reason that like the competitive scene um, was where it was like early days. So I think I'm under the impression they reached out to him to kind of offer him a slot there, and so he was looking for a team that was going to be competitive and also had good people on it, like low drama and just like, people who, because he's also quite busy these days and he just had a kid. And so he was looking for sort of like a like kind of low maintenance team, and we'd been very self sufficiently running ourselves for the last season, so it was a really good fit. And yeah, that's kind of how that happened. Yeah,
Yeah,
now we're
talk.
ice gaming.
That's yeah. What an evolution. Really cool that you recognize that there was sort of an alignment in terms of what they were looking for, and then what you all brought to the table. Talk me through some of that mentality behind the organization itself. Obviously, you mentioned it's gone through some roster changes over the years. You being one of the only original member still a part of that. Is there any sort of philosophy that's still kind of ingrained in the DNA of the organization itself, that's kind of persisted through that you've been able to see?
Yeah, I think that when we do roster, we have had roster swaps, but I think a very key thing that every time that we're looking for a player is someone who is willing to be. We have like a very specific team environment. It's very like human first. It sounds very corporate, but it's like, we want to be a team of people who really enjoy playing the game with each other.
Hmm.
We want to feel comfortable giving each other feedback. We want that feedback to be delivered in a way that is like, like not hurtful or like, emotionally driven. It's not to say that like things when things aren't going well, we obviously have to have the tough conversations and such, but like I think what has been very important is like it wants to be a good environment. It wants to be a fun environment. We are competing, but we are playing a video game. And
Right.
so like keeping that in the DNA has been very important. And like finding people who are willing to like have fun and like do stuff. Like we just were the IX gaming under dunk like gym leader challenge or whatever. And we were like, we're monotyping and we're not picking blasters. We're picking cram lappers. Um, and that kind of like it's just like
Right.
sometimes it's just not so serious. We want to be, we know when to lock in and we want to get better and we want to get better together, but it's also like we're putting a lot of time into this video game. We want it to be fun and we want people to feel comfortable.
I love that mentality. And
Yeah.
obviously, uh, you mentioned the regional leagues season as it stands today. IX currently sitting at 7-5 in the regional league overall record. Fourth right now in the standings from the last things that I saw. Although you are tied
Mhm.
with the number 3 team in Lunex, and have some head to head wins over them as well. Um, Obviously, the North American region itself is locked up. All 5 slots for the playoffs have been secured. Bottom 3 teams
Yeah.
are out. There is week 5 coming up this weekend, and so how are you sort of approaching this coming week of competition, knowing that the spots are locked up essentially, but you don't want to lose momentum going into the playoffs?
Yeah. I mean, I think we want to put our best foot forward. We want to do what we can. We have evil geniuses, especially I think in week 5. We want to see how we measure up there. I think we're taking it as a um, like we want to win. We want to, do what we can to play our best. We are definitely like laser focused on playoffs. So like week 5 is a step on the way there, and so we'll use that to build momentum going into the King of the Hill stuff.
So this season's been really interesting for me to watch just as an observer from the outside. In North America especially, you had the 2 top teams start off the first 2 weeks of the season undefeated. In Root Dignitas and, as you mentioned, Evil Geniuses. Actually, in week 2, whenever y'all played Evil Geniuses, you pushed them to game 3 as well. So it was
Hmm.
a really good kind
Yeah.
of test back then, even in week 2. And but as you mentioned, adversity has been something that's kind of been showing up on occasion for a lot of teams in the league, but I've noticed it for IX as well. There's been some adversity to overcome. Obviously, playing those two teams throughout the course of the season, and then as well, Lunex Gaming had a really strong week 3, especially, and then they came into week 4 kind of really hot. And then you all had
Yeah.
to play them in week 4. You ended up taking them to 3 games and winning that set.
Mhm.
You did drop a
Yeah.
game to TI Gang, who, I mean, they've been kind of a wild card throughout most of the season as well. So there's been some ups and downs and some adversity throughout the course of the season. What's sort of been the mentality of IX, as an organization, but also for you as a player? What's sort of been your mentality as you've sort of coped and gone through the paces with the challenges and adversity of the season?
Yeah. I think the team really believes in each other. I think we have lost some sets or games that we didn't think that we should have lost, but it's how you react to that will decide. And I'm really proud of how we rebounded after the loss to T Gang, who, by the way, like everybody is saying they are a wild card. That team is really good.
They really
Like,
are.
I mean, I know they really are. They won the qualifiers to qualify for the league. Like, I think I mean, their results are a little bit like worse than I would have expected, but like, I do think that is not a reason to like underestimate that team.
Completely
Um,
agree.
yeah. So I think, it's like, sure, we shouldn't have lost those games. We drafted poorly. What can we learn from what we did? How can we not repeat what we did again? How can we not let that get into our heads and continue on to like, get that really important win over Lunex? That did make us feel better. It's like the rebound is really good. And I think that has been historically a thing with the players on IX. I think that we are able to kind of take losses in stride and like try to just like go to the next thing. Um, Sorry, and then you had another part to that question that I rapidly
As an
went over.
organization, the 6 of you, essentially the 5 mains and then the sub,
Mhm.
obviously have a
Mhm.
mentality together as a team. The organization does, but then
Yeah.
you yourself, kind of sitting in the role that you do on the team. Has there been any specific like mentality that you've sort of taken into it, or any approach that you've tried to take as the course of the season has gone on? In order to sort of deal with some of the ups and downs that you've seen.
I would say that I just try to focus on like what I can be doing better because I think there is always something that I could be doing better. At the beginning of the season, I, for example, like wasn't doing as good of a job as playing for Vision as some of the other top supports in the region. And so I've been really trying to like think about that. I try to take something that I've learned out of like the previous scrim or like the previous weekend into like every new set and like kind of improve and focus on improving on that one thing until it becomes more of second nature and then moving on to a next thing. I think a lot of our team, what I really love about our team is that we don't really point fingers when we are dissecting like what is going wrong. A lot of people are just like really laser focused on like what they can be doing better. And so everybody is like really individually trying to improve in a way that like isn't that feels like it everyone's taking accountability for
Mhm.
things that they're doing badly and working on improving that, and I think we have that trust built up within us that everybody is trying their hardest to improve themselves, so like we don't really need to fight about things going poorly because we know that everybody will go back and like do the work.
That trust is so important. Has there been anything that's sort of surprised you this season? Anything either coming out of the league or any situation that you all faced that was sort of a surprise that you didn't expect?
I think I don't know if it's surprising, but I think that like our first I think I am happy with the quality of our first 8 minutes and how consistent we can generally be in the first 8 minutes of the game, even against like the best teams in the region, like Dignitas. I think we were able to like really hold even or be ahead like in our last league match with them, and we really just need to figure out the last 2 minutes. But that's been like something that I think we've all been working really hard on is like figuring out how to like gain the lead early, hold the lead, and then we just need to like kind of figure out how to close. And I've been really happy with our ability to do that against the best teams in the region.
Absolutely agree. And Unite being volatile in the last 2 minutes will come as a surprise to nobody, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
what would you say is the sort of measure of success for this team this season? Is it world championship or bust, or how would you gauge success for you as a team?
We want to qualify for Worlds. I think a lot of us played this season again because we heard a lot of the talk about how our Worlds qualification last year was a fluke, and we wanted to show that we could hang. I would like to believe that with our performances in the league this season, we have proved that we can hang. We want that second Worlds qualification. We believe that we are good enough to get it, and we believe that we will show up when the time is right. It's not that it's like or bust because like, you know, the other teams are also very good and it will be a hard challenge, right? To get that, but we believe in ourselves, and I think the measure of qualification is that like, did we have a good time this season and did we do the best that we could to achieve our goals? And even if we didn't achieve that goal of qualifying for Worlds, like, do we feel good about like what we did to try to do that? And I think so far the answer has been yes. And fingers crossed that, you know, the work that we put in will pay off on the day.
I'll be rooting for you for sure. It's been really fun to get to watch IX specifically. I think what really stood out to me was in week 4. You all ended up dropping that first game, like we mentioned, to T Gang, and then came back.
Yeah.
And so that like showed a ton of mental fortitude. It also showed like recognition of sort of the landscape around, and the ability to rebound against some pretty tough challenges there in week 4. I want to talk a little bit about game philosophy because obviously, as a support player, it's support is one of those roles where there's a lot of micro that you have to keep track of throughout the course of the
Mhm.
game. You have to be aware of everybody's HP. You have to be aware of positioning. You have to be aware of cooldowns. Like there's so much that you have to kind of juggle mentally in there. And so, what's your approach to being mindful of everything while also prioritizing what's important?
Um, I think that our team has very good comms. And I think that I am a big part of those comms. I think what we just like try to pay a lot of attention like to communicating all those things. We try to game plan. Like I'll even have conversations like, okay, like we've got, if I'm Blissey, we've got like 2, maybe even 3 carries that like we could use this Blissey ult on. We'll like start that conversation a bit before we want to use it, and we'll align as a team like on where we're going to invest that resource. And even that can like help make it so that everybody is aware of like what the plan is and acts accordingly. So like others will play their health bar if they know they're not going to have the Blissey, as opposed to like maybe expecting something that like wasn't going to come. So I think that's a big part of it. It is, you know, just like getting the vision, communicating the vision, asking what we want to do off of that vision, I think is a big part of the role. I mentioned that's something that I've been working on improving this season.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that's definitely part of it.
Yeah, that ownership as a support's so important. Support's also another role that has there's a lot of nuance to it. There's a lot of different ways that you can play support. I had a conversation with Nihat over
Hmm.
in EU. His preference as a
Hmm.
support is more to play a disruptor. You know, somebody who can make plays.
Hmm.
Playing a hoopa specifically or a Psyduck. You slot into that as well. You've just I have some stats in front of me. You've picked Psyduck 5 times. You've picked Hoopa 4, but you've also picked Eldegoss 5 times, Blissey 3, Alcremie 2. So like you kind of you're almost this chameleon with the support role where you can play some of that disruptor. You can also play sort of a traditional healer too. So talk me through some of your mentality in terms of team comps, how you go about preparing so many different nuances to that role.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with like what we want to do with our draft, and also what map we're playing on.
Mm,
Our team, I think, has a tendency to be better if I am a healer on maps that are not Kyogre. So you'll probably see a tendency towards me picking those things on Groudon or Rayquaza. Um, the Hoopa and the Duck are really good on Kyogre because people can grab those berries and heal themselves if they are low, and it's less important that I am on something that can like keep them up like that. Um, So yeah, I think that's also part of it. I also am like truly like the definition of like a support player. Like I just get on the game and I just grind the yellow backgrounds just like all day. So like I am comfortable on all of the background all the yellow backgrounds, and that's probably why you see the flex a lot more like across the like healers and the disruptors. So yeah, it's really just like what is called for. And a lot of times it'll be like if we're picking that last thing and it wants a healer, then I'll go that. Or if we're trying to take away the Hoopa or the Duck from other players that we know are really good on those characters, I'm also totally fine just early picking that if it makes sense. So yeah.
So I don't want to give away any secrets, obviously. So I'm sure you're fully aware of this, but you have a 100% win rate on Blissey. So just something to keep in mind as well. um,
Oh, well,
I don't want to jinx it going into week 5, but I figured I would mention that.
that's also ironically what I was on in the regionals match that we won
Yeah.
against yeah, Unk. So yeah.
Wow. Wow, that's awesome.
Bliss is good.
It you
But
know it's one of those mons that takes a lot of practice to get the timing of things down for sure. Um, I wanted to ask just sort of around game philosophy itself. Who's on your must ban list right now?
um from second,
Mhm.
Surfetched is so broken. We lost. That's actually one of the reasons we lost the T gang was we did a lot of research on what they'd been playing in the scrims and such, and we saw that there weren't many games on Surfetched, and we were like, what if we let this through here? It's too broken. Um, yeah, and then we are sort of it Machamp is also not fun. There's not a lot to be done about it. It just runs at you with its unstoppable little arms, and then it just picks you up and it puts you into the bad place, and there's nothing that can really be done about it. And
Yep.
so yeah, we're not a fan of that one unless we're playing it.
Ironically, both of those mons like top 2 at ACL as well, in terms of
Yes, that
encounter rate.
that
So
also that also did not help our perception. Yeah.
So who needs a buff then? What mon is in need of a buff right now for you?
I think I would not leave this conversation alive if I did not put in the call to fix Duraludon. Um, Liko really, really wants Duraludon to be fixed. Needs a buff. I don't even know if it needs a buff. It just needs to be bug fixed.
So I'm guessing by that, no, we won't
Um,
see Duraludon week 5.
unless they fix the bugs.
Oh well, maybe.
Probably not. Yeah, I
So
fear not.
there's obvious flaws and challenges with the game itself. Some of the decisions that have been made over the course of the last year, especially
Hmm.
both on the game management side and then some on the competitive side too. There's been some frustration. So I just one of the questions that I wanted to ask was for you as a player, especially pouring a lot of your time into this on the competitive side. What keeps you coming back?
The game is fundamentally so much fun. When it's played at the highest levels, I think it's one of the greatest things to watch. It's really great to participate in. I love my team so much as people and as teammates. I think that it's very hard to walk away from that kind of environment and from people that make a fun game like at its core, if you ignore all the stuff that's kind of going bad about it right now, like even more fun. So that's like what keeps me coming back. Um, yeah, I really wish that like the community, I think is there's a lot of really fun people. I've met so many friends, people who have even stopped playing the game, but like are still in my life a lot. It's just a really great game and community, and it's hard to walk away from. And it's just like sunk cost fallacy, right? How many thousands of hours like does everybody have on this game at this point? Like,
You might as well keep
surely,
coming back,
surely it
right?
must continue, right? Yeah.
I'm so with you. There's just something about it, and I say this every time I get the opportunity to watch, especially competitive get play. It's such a beautiful game. There's such an aspect to it where especially whenever it has the opportunity to be played in front of a crowd, specifically like some of these larger tournaments, you can feel the energy of the room swell at
Oh,
the right moment.
when
It's
the
a, it's
Japanese crowd, the tweet that was like they were yelling "Ready, go!" Oh,
it's it
iconic.
it's amazing. So
Yeah.
what are some of your I guess favorite memories of live in person tournaments?
Um, so we've played two. We played NAIC last year, which was our first like stage game, which was very cool. And then Worlds. Um, I think like a lot of it is like the environment surrounding the actual competition itself, but being on stage is also so cool and is also just like there are just some things about it that you wouldn't expect. Like I didn't expect to put on the headset and have there just be like white noise. I was just like, can we turn this down or no? The answer is no. But it's to so that you can't hear what like the casters are saying about anything that's happening. I'm
Right.
pretty sure is the reason. But yeah, just like getting to spend time with my team and like our friends from the community in person when everyone is usually split across countries, even or like states, um, is just like a really great opportunity. Because again, like I love so many of the people that I've met through this game, and being able to hang out with them in person like once or twice a year is like really amazing. And Worlds especially was really cool because we never get to see the teams from out of region. So that was just really cool to meet some people, still chat with like some of our friends from OCE that we met last year. It's just really cool.
I love that. One final question, and again, just want to say thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. I love the opportunity
Hmm.
to just one get to know a little bit more behind the scenes whenever it comes to the competitive Unite scene, but also there's this unique perspective that you have as a woman in this in a competitive esports environment that is very male dominated. I've got daughters. It's something that's really near and dear to my heart that they see that there is opportunity abundantly for them. Can you talk me through just a little bit of your approach to holding that space? Do you feel like there's a measure of responsibility that you have?
Yeah, I don't see it as a responsibility. I see it as a privilege. I
Love that.
am like very excited about being able to, like have made it this far. I don't think about it. I think like what I would hope is that like I wouldn't have to think so much about like, oh wow, like I made it and I'm a woman in esports. But I think that like what we do need to talk about is that it is very rare for this to happen for a reason. And there is a reason that like every time somebody makes it, there is a whole conversation about like, well, how did you make it and like how do you feel about it? But nobody really ever has to ask the men that, right?
Right.
And I think for me, it's like what are the things that have made me find success in this space? And it's like knowing what I needed to be successful and then finding people who were willing to cultivate that environment with me. So, for example, I know that I don't personally react very well in like volatile environments where like, and I don't respond well to just like, frankly, like being yelled at. I am like already very hard on myself when I make mistakes, and I need an environment that will understand that like I am taking responsibility and I don't really need additional outside like forces to like tell me that. And so as an example, like I think that the version 1 into IX gaming like kind of team environment has been a really great place for me to be able to like grow my skills as a support player over time. I also think that part of the mentality going into version 1 that has continued is that like we are not a roster mania team. We have found people that we like, and even if we are not all the perfect Unite players, we like each other and we are going to stick with each other and we're going to grow together. And so that also takes a lot of the anxiety out of like, oh, I might get replaced or something like that. And that has been very good for me as well, to be able to like focus on improving rather than like whether I might be replaced or like any of that other stuff. Um, I think that it is like very rare. Like these types of environments are very rare. And I know like I'm not going to speak for every woman who might be trying to make it in competitive Unite, but like for me, it was like I would not have found success outside of this type of environment. And this environment is very rare, especially at the top levels. So I think that's just like something that I think can change, and like maybe that people can think about if they are wanting to encourage, if they find like a talent, or they think that, like as a woman, like they are like, I am good enough to do this, which like I think there have been so many very talented women that have come through Unite. I've watched them play and succeed competitively long before I was like at that level at all. Like Stockings, Sobi, Bats, Sky, like Katie, like all of these like women were like such badasses, and like they made me believe that I could reach that level. And it was just that I needed to make I was very lucky. I was in an environment where I could get to this level. And I think that what would be great is if people considered what might what about a team environment, or even like a community environment would help, guide or allow more people to like be comfortable stepping into these more getting the experience that they need to like get better at the game. um I will also say that like i I love a lot of people in the community, but I also don't like go out and like I do hear, that it's just like esports, right? Like people are going to be creeps and weird, and I like really just like hard line like do not engage with like a lot of people
Yeah.
for that reason. And I think that like that is not it's not possible for that to be true for many women, and that is very discouraging as well. So like the fact that I've been able to sort of dodge a lot of that, I think has given me like sort of the like psychological safety, like to continue playing this game with the people that I have found that like are very respectful and like create a comfortable environment together. Um, but yeah, it's just some of this stuff where like you know who you are, like you can probably do better is what I will say.
Can definitely, for sure. I see things all the time that are really, they're discouraging, but they're also disgusting on so many levels.
Yeah.
Where it makes you wonder. The you brought up like safety and security, and I think that that's such an important thing to facilitate in any organization, but especially in one where there is a sort of an acknowledged issue or challenge with people who have presented with some of those disgusting or really challenging behaviors. So, would you? What are some things that you might encourage other organizations to do in order to help facilitate some of those more healthy environments for any
I
player?
mean, I think yeah, I mean, I think it's hard, right? Because the teams themselves, like at this point, sort of have locked rosters, and like I would say that like there's sort of a chicken and the egg problem, right? Because like there are going to be players that are just like not ready to step into like the type of like team level. So like one, I think that the fact that regional league launched without a sort of B league was a bit of a missed opportunity. I do hope that they revisit that next season, because I think that that is sort of the place, like the kind of the proving grounds and the place that people can really get a lot of practice. I know Black CH has a league going on right now that is like not officially sponsored. Um, so shout out to the grassroots scene as always for doing a lot of the heavy lifting. But I do think that that is part of it. Like giving space and opportunity. I also do think there is a tendency to sort of only play with players that you are familiar with. It just becomes more insular, and so it's
Yeah.
harder and harder to break in. And in that sense, I think version 1 sort of was the one team that like broke through together, because we never really had a top 8 player on the roster before we made the top 8. Um, and that's pretty rare. So it's not that like everyone is going to be, it's not like I'm saying everybody just go and pick up players that aren't proven or anything, but I think it's like if you're playing 5 stacks and you're, you somebody is LFG and they have some potential, like kind of just like understand that they haven't had the reps, and like, like give them feedback, but like don't be a dick about it. Or it's just like
Of
smaller
course.
sort of like daily engagements where it's like yeah, the teams are going to have the environments that the teams want to have and that work for themselves. But like when it comes to bringing anybody new into the scene that like you notice has some talent or potential, it's just like what can you do? How can you like how can you give them feedback in a way that will help them flourish as opposed to will cause them to lose confidence and leave the game. And like some of that is like, you know, can you like, you know, are you confident enough saying that you know how that like, you know, I like to receive feedback like this, like please don't talk to me like this. I think that's very hard for people, especially if they're young,
It
you
is.
know, to like be proactive and like communicate like that. That can go a long way. Um, but also just like, yeah, let's just be more considerate to each other as players, perhaps.
I love that, and shout out to the grassroots scene. There are so many amazing Unite grassroots scenes going on right now. Project Fearless over in EU is a huge one. Obviously, we know
Mm.
Underdunk is a huge one that's continued to
Mm-hmm.
facilitate a lot of these competitive environments. And amazing that IX got to be involved in that, or continues to be involved in that scene, because I think that helps elevate the game in such a huge way, massive way. Um, Thank you so much for being willing to join me today, Whaley. It's really great to have these conversations. I really feel like a privilege and honor that you gave me this time to be able to facilitate this. If any of the viewers want to check out IX Gaming this coming weekend in the UCS Regional League, Week 5, like we mentioned, last week of competitive for the Regional League itself, but there's a lot of competition that will go on before the World Championships in San Francisco at the end of August. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe for more competitive Unite action, and I will see you next time.